If you or a loved one are struggling with type 2 diabetes, you should visit the link in the description below. This clinically proven, drug-free program lowers blood sugar to a normal level and can completely reverse type 2 diabetes within just a few weeks. Here's today's video.
The question, why does diabetes occur in humans? Answer by Debashioti Chowdhury. At first I assume it's diabetes mellitus, not insipidus. Perhaps it will be the largest answer of quora if we at least mention all pathological process in detail or by word diagram. So I will try to write a compact answer, in a lucid way. It is almost impossible to mention in quora answer, and some researchers are still in their way. For some answers, diabetes has multisystemic presentation. It affects retina, kidney, liver, immunity and healing, vessels and cardiovascular system, nervous system, urinary system, GI system, and even skin and sexual function in long run, almost everything. So let me say, diabetes mellitus, DM, a group of diseases that shares phenotype of hyperglycemia, high blood glucose. Several distinct types of DM exists, and are caused by a complex interaction of genetic and environmental factors. Depending on the etiology of the DM, factors contributing to hyperglycemia include reduced insulin secretion, decreased glucose utilization, and increased glucose production. DM is classified on the basis of pathogenic process leads to hyperglycemia, as opposed to earlier criteria agent therapy. Type 1 is result of interaction of genetic, environmental and immunological factors leads to destruction of pancreatic beta islets and insulin deficiency. More often autoimmune beta cell destruction, but not always. Even phenotype of some of them lacks indicative immunological markers marked as idiopathic. They are non-immune mechanism and ketosis prone. Type 2 is for insulin resistance and abnormal insulin secretion. Although primary defect is controversial, insulin resistance precedes an insulin secretory defect, but diabetes develops only when insulin secretion becomes inadequate. Concordance of type 2 DM in identical twins is between 70 to 90%. The disease is polygenic and multifactorial, since into the addition to genetic susceptibility, environmental factors modulate the phenotype. Most prominent as variant of transcription factor 7 like 2 genes. They are present in type 2 DM in patients with impaired glucose tolerance. Obesity, particularly visceral and central, is very common in type 2 DM. In early stages of the disorder, glucose tolerance remain normal or near normal. Despite insulin resistance, the beta cells compensate by increasing insulin output. And insulin resistance and compensatory hyperinsulinemia progress. Pancreatic islets of certain individuals are unable to sustain the hyperinsulinemic state. IGT, impaired glucose tolerance, characterized by PP, post-meal, glucose high, then develops a further decline in insulin secretion, and further mechanisms increase hepatic glucose production leads to overt diabetes with fasting hyperglycemia. Ultimately, beta cell failure may ensure. In type 2 DM, insulin resistance in liver reflects the failure of hyperinsulinemia to suppress gluconeogenesis, results in fasting hyperglycemia and decreased glycogen storage by liver and PP. As a result of insulin resistance to adipose tissue, free fatty acid influx increased, leading to high VLDL, TG. There is another entity, gestational DM. Insulin resistance is seen here in late pregnancy, after 24 weeks due to production of human placental lactogen HPL, high production of cortisol, estrogens, progesterone, increased lipolysis, increased insulin requirement leading to IGT. Here high blood sugar leads to free radicals formation, but as the organogenesis completed by 24 weeks, so it doesn't lead to congenital malformations. Gestational diabetes and overt diabetes in pregnancy are not same. In the latter, hyperglycemic female becomes pregnant. So from day 1, there are free radicals there, thus it can lead to congenital malformations. There are many other genetic defects of beta cell function by mutation of. These mutations leads to minority onset diabetes mellitus, MODY. Genetic defects in insulin action is also seen in. Please Google this names for further knowing. In endocrinopathies, like drug-induced hyperglycemia is also seen in. Image source, Google. Answer by Seena Malhotra. Hi. How are you? Here is the simple and clear solution for you. Please read each line of the below article with patience. How does diabetes occur? Diabetes is a metabolic condition in which the body does not properly regulate the glucose, or sugar, in the blood. When you eat carbohydrates, Your body breaks them down into sugars, including glucose. Glucose is transported by the bloodstream to the cells, where it is used for energy. The hormone insulin, secreted by the pancreas, is responsible for moving glucose from the blood into the cells. People with diabetes either do not make insulin, or their body does not properly respond to insulin, resulting in chronically elevated blood glucose. Urgent Diabetes Health Bulletin from the doctors at the International Council for Truth in Medicine on Diabetes Facts which you can't ignore. Type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes develops as a result of an autoimmune attack on the pancreas that causes it to stop producing the hormone insulin. Without insulin, blood glucose is not regulated and type 1 diabetes develops. The exact cause is unknown, but the illness tends to run in families. Among people with a genetic predisposition for type 1 diabetes, an environmental trigger appears to stimulate the immune system attack on the pancreas. Certain viral infections in the first year of life are associated with an increased risk for type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, type 2 diabetes accounts for 90 to 95% of all diabetes cases. Type 2 diabetes typically begins with insulin resistance, a condition in which the pancreas produces insulin but the body cells do not respond to it properly. As the disease progresses, the pancreas may eventually lose its ability to produce insulin. Type 2 diabetes also involves a strong genetic component combined with other risk factors, including obesity and a sedentary lifestyle. Gestational diabetes. Gestational diabetes is a form of glucose intolerance that develops during pregnancy. According to the CDC, as many as 18% of pregnancies may be affected. Although the cause is unknown, it occurs more often in obese women and women with a family history of diabetes. Women who develop gestational diabetes are at increased for type 2 diabetes after their pregnancy. Prevention. The results of the Diabetes Prevention Program, a study conducted by the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, showed that you can delay or even avoid type 2 diabetes through lifestyle changes, including increased physical activity and a diet low in fat and calories. Even a modest weight loss, 5 to 7% of total body weight, along with increased physical activity sharply reduced study participants' risk for developing type 2 diabetes. The American Diabetes Association recommends losing weight if you are overweight, increasing physical activity and eating a healthy diet focused on vegetables, fruits and lean meats. I hope you like it. All the best. Urgent Diabetes Health Bulletin from the doctors at the International Council for Truth in Medicine on Diabetes Facts which you can't ignore. Answer by Zayed or Moihawk. Diabetes is common in nowadays. Firstly, you should know that there are two terms: diabetes mellitus and another one is diabetes insipidus due to vasopressin deficiency. Obviously you are asking about diabetes mellitus. Let's know about it. In diabetes mellitus, blood level glucose increases enormously, normal 80,100 mg/dl. There are different causes leading to diabetes. Now question is how insulin deficiency causes diabetes, and insulin helps in the absorption of glucose by our body cells through transporter, mainly by GLUT4, along with the sodium ion symporter. Now if insulin quantity decreases, body cannot absorb glucose, so glucose in blood increases leads to diabetes. Also, deficiency of insulin causes gluconeogenesis. In diabetes type 2, insulin receptor become useless. So insulin cannot show their effects inside the cell. Type 1 is due to damage of beta cells of pancreas which is genetically inherited to their offspring. Another main difference between these two is ketosis only occurs in type 1 diabetes. In diabetes insipidus, vasopressin deficiency occurs. In turns, excessive water loss through urine. Osmolarity become unbalanced.